Beth and Rip's spin-off announcement cheapened the Yellowstone season finale. While Yellowstone Season 5 has a monumental finale to top off Taylor Sheridan's neo-Western series, the announcement that Beth and Rip's stories would continue ruined one of Yellowstone's most significant conclusions. Beth and Rip's Yellowstone spinoff was announced just days before the Season 5 finale, further muddling the ongoing conversation about how Yellowstone's story would evolve. While it was good news to hear Kelly Reilly and Cole Hauser's characters weren't done yet, it spoiled a significant outcome of Yellowstone Season 5's ending. Spoilers aside, Yellowstone's cathartic finale wrapped up all its best stories. After the death of Kevin Costner's John Dutton IE, Case followed through with his plan to sell the ranch back to the Broken Rock tribe, returning the land to Montana's indigenous people. After negotiating the terms of Case's freedom from the Yellowstone, he settled at East Camp with his family while Beth and Rip bought a ranch in Dillon, Montana. Unfortunately, Beth and Rip's happy ending was majorly spoiled, with their spin-off announcement cheapening the payoff of Beth surviving the finale's Dutton sibling war. Beth and Jamie's sibling war was one of the richest storylines heading into the Yellowstone Season 5 finale. Beth and Jamie Dutton have been at odds of Shakespearean proportions since Yellowstone Season 1, with Beth having it out for her brother since her first days back at the ranch, and vice versa. The conclusion of their war had high stakes, with existing conflicts and their lack of trust in one another at the core of their struggle. Heading into the finale, Beth vowed to kill Jamie. While her prevailing was likely, the spin-off announcement prematurely confirmed Beth's triumph. During Beth and Jamie's final scene in the finale, Yellowstone confirmed that Beth made it out of this sibling rivalry alive. After her father's funeral, Beth drove straight to her brother's house in her Bentley with her signature road rage. When inside, Beth violently attacked Jamie, intending to kill him. While her brother fought back, Rip showed up at the perfect time. Beth ultimately killed Wes Bentley's Jamie, following through on her promise that she would bring justice to John's suffering. Beth's last words to her father were, "I will avenge you." The Deadline report confirming a new Yellowstone spinoff starring Beth and Rip spoiled Beth, making it out of Yellowstone Season 5 without a doubt. While her bloody battle with her brother was ultimately predictable, the report left no room to interpret whether Beth would survive the fight. While the screenwriter did his best to keep Yellowstone's ending under wraps, Sheridan couldn't keep the news about Beth and Rip's spinoff a secret forever, since contract negotiations were underway. Still, while the spinoff announcement spoiled the flagship's ending, it made Beth and Rip's ending all the more significant. The announcement suggested that Beth and Rip's story would share the most DNA with Sheridan's flagship, including the Yellowstone moniker in the title and characters from the original series, filling out the story with familiar faces. One good thing about the report was that fans, knowing Beth and Rip would live to see another day, could interpret the couple's ending at Beth and Rip's Dillon, Montana ranch as a new beginning, teasing where their Yellowstone story would pick up in the distant future. The announcement of a spin-off series focused on Beth and Rip's relationship seemed like a sudden shift in focus for Yellowstone. While the show had consistently centered around the Dutton family's turbulent grip on the land, the unveiling of this new project, coming just before the season finale, cast a long shadow over the conclusion of the season. Beth and Rip have always been pivotal figures within the Yellowstone universe. Their fiery, sometimes dysfunctional love story sparking both admiration and disdain. But the timing of the spin-off announcement raised questions. It was almost as if Paramount Network was preemptively shifting attention away from the high-stakes drama that had been brewing throughout the season. Fans had been eagerly awaiting the season finale, anticipating a cliffhanger that would leave them begging for more. But as the news of Beth and Rip's spinoff dropped like a bomb, the emotional weight of the finale became diluted, overshadowed by the commercial undertones of a network desperately trying to squeeze out more content. Suddenly, the fierce battles over land, power, and legacy felt secondary to the thought of a new spin-off series. Rather than reflecting on the Dutton family's future, the audience found themselves wondering how the spin-off would play out. Would it give us more of Beth's sharp-witted sarcasm and Rip's rugged charm, or would it attempt to sell a romanticized version of their relationship? It wasn't just the announcement itself that cheapened the finale, it was the surrounding fanfare. Social media exploded with speculation, and marketing campaigns pivoted from promoting the end of the season to teasing what was next for Beth and Rip. Hashtags like #BethAndRip Spinoff began trending almost immediately, dominating the conversation in ways that overshadowed the dramatic stakes of the finale itself. The season finale of Yellowstone had set the stage for some of the show's biggest revelations. Alliances were being tested, and betrayals were about to come to light. Yet instead of immersing viewers in the drama of the Duttons, the spin-off announcement felt like a commercial interruption, pulling attention away from the complexities of family and legacy that had defined the show. It made one question whether the Dutton story was truly as important as the merchandise surrounding it. Beth and Rip's spin-off didn't just shift focus, it also shifted tone. Their relationship, which had been built up over seasons as a raw, untamed connection, suddenly felt like a narrative designed to pull in new viewers, perhaps even those unfamiliar with Yellowstone, rather than something that had been earned. The gritty, raw edges of their love story now seemed a little more polished, a little more marketable, as if the show was positioning them as the new faces of Yellowstone, a comfortable blend of romance, action, and drama that could potentially reach a wider audience. And this is where the cheapening really occurred. Yellowstone had always been a show that felt authentically rough around the edges. It was a show that dared to show the ugliness of its characters, as well as their beauty. By immediately announcing a spin-off, the show risked losing that edge. Instead of letting the season finale stand on its own and let fans decide the fate of Beth and Rip organically, the network pushed the idea of their love story to the forefront, giving it an almost manufactured feel. The moment when Beth and Rip's spin-off was announced, in fact, was almost comical in its timing. The season finale was building toward a fiery confrontation, the promise of big changes and uncertain futures hanging in the air. And just as the emotional tension hit its peak, the spin-off news dropped, like a loud commercial blaring over the quiet of an intimate scene. The narrative flow was interrupted. What was supposed to be a moment of catharsis for Yellowstone fans became a moment of confusion and concern. Was this the beginning of the end for the show's integrity? For the most devoted fans who had invested years in the Dutton family saga, the spin-off announcement felt like a corporate cash grab. It felt as though the show was being turned into a franchise, as if the Dutton legacy wasn't enough to carry the series forward. And while Beth and Rip's relationship had undeniably become one of the show's central arcs, it never felt like it was something that needed to be spun off. Their tumultuous love was one of the most gripping parts of Yellowstone, precisely because it was woven into the larger narrative. It wasn't a standalone plot, until the spin-off news came along, forcing it to be. For the more casual viewers, the timing of the announcement may have created a sense of anticipation. They may have seen the spin-off as a fresh and exciting addition to the Yellowstone world. But for the core fans who had stuck with the show since its inception, the spin-off felt like the beginning of the end of the show's authenticity. The finale was supposed to provide closure, or at least leave fans with enough lingering questions to fuel anticipation for the next season. Instead, it left many wondering if Yellowstone was being stretched too thin, its rich, complex storylines now reduced to cheap fan service. By attempting to broaden the appeal of Beth and Rip, Yellowstone risked losing what made the show so special in the first place: the hard-edged, morally complex portrayal of a family that was both brutal and loving, capable of both cruelty and sacrifice. The focus on the spinoff shifted the tone from something raw and vulnerable to something more easily consumable. It was no longer about the Dutton family's fight for survival. It was about what could be sold next. In the end, the spinoff announcement didn't just overshadow the season finale, it diluted it. What could have been a climactic, emotionally charged conclusion to the season instead felt like the first chapter in a larger, more corporate-driven plan. It was a reminder that in today's entertainment world, even the most compelling narratives can be reduced to products to be marketed. Yellowstone had always prided itself on being unyielding in its portrayal of the Duttons' world. But the spinoff showed that even the wildest westerns could be tamed for the sake of a brand.